So at first I wasn't going to do this as my stick drawings only have a comedic value to an extent, but now that I have a somewhat competent artist at my disposal, that is to say Diana, it's time to draw my life! Yay! I cannot disclose all the details, but I was born out of a forbidden affair between a CEO of a huge corporation and her driver. All my youth it was an unspoken truth. An elephant in the room with my family, and I was resented by the people I thought were my father and siblings without understanding why. It was tragic.
And come on, you know that's not true.
Fine, we'll go with this, fine. Just keep drawing.
I was born in Nova Scotia, and my parents were called Jedediah and Bertha Shirley. My memories about them are pretty vague at this point, mostly because they were absent a lot. I didn't see my mother that much because she was in prison. I wouldn't still call her a bad person. You know, as a little kid, I would think of all these wacky scenarios of how my innocent mother landed herself in jail to protect her loved ones. You know, like stealing a loaf of bread. 24601. Yeah, she picked up that money bag because the thief just dropped it. That's completely accurate. My father, however, wasn't very good at looking after me by himself, and he did have some problems with drinking and gambling, so it was for the best that I didn't stay with him. The elephant doesn't approve, quite clearly. So, I was taken into foster care at the age of 5. I haven't spent a lot of time in a home though, mostly just different foster families, each with their own pros and cons. I lived with Mr. and Mrs. Thomas until I was like 12, I think. A typical working class couple, I suppose. Mrs. Thomas was a short, chubby lady with curly brown hair, and Mr. Thomas had a big belly and not too much hair to speak of. But more importantly, they had 4 children of their own, all younger than me. That's where I gained most of my experience in babysitting. That's me there, looking at my new family with a question mark above my head. Unfortunately, after a few years, Mr. Thomas was killed in a tragic train accident. May he rest in peace. Mrs. Thomas was left in a very tight spot financially. So it was time for me to move into a different foster home. This is where Mrs. Hammond steps into the picture. She was a firm-willed, precise woman that apparently looks like a square. Thank you, Diana. Please fix that. There we go. One inevitably grows up to be like her when bringing up a large family, don't you think? She had 8 children, 3 twins in a row. Can you imagine? I still have very strong biceps for carrying them around. That was not the most fun time of my life, but of course I appreciate the Hammonds for taking care of me and providing for me. I know they meant to be just as good and kind as possible, and when people mean to be good to you, you don't mind very much when they're not quite always. My life back then didn't have that much scope for imagination, but at least I didn't live in the home. Which is where I ended up though, a few years later, when the Hammonds had a messy divorce that ended in Mrs. Hammond moving to the States and the children being divided up between the parents. I didn't have to live in the overcrowded orphanage for too long though, as I was just after 6 months told that someone wanted a girl around my age and I would make do. There I am drawing. That's a beautiful arrow, don't you think? Look at my beautiful writing. I'm so artistic. So I packed my bags, and the social worker took me to the train station, where I was picked up by Matthew. There I am, look at me. I was 17, it was like a few months ago, but I'm really small in the picture. Look at me, tiny little me. My writing apparently wasn't good enough for Diana, but she did it a lot better, I have to admit. Look, she even made a little chimney. So cute. Yeah, I was told that someone wanted to go my age and I would make do. And the rest, I guess, is history. Yeah. Being Anne of Green Gables is definitely better than being Anne of nowhere in particular.